Hi everyone, Ainsley here from Small Fry Creations, where we tackle everything DIY, and this week we're going to build a floating shelf to house all our essential oils. Let me show you how I did it. This week we're making a floating shelf, and the magic in this floating shelf is the hardware that you don't even see. We're going to make our own shelf pins to hold it up on the wall and float it, but the first thing we need is a shelf. So we're going to take this Blackbutt, turn it into a shelf, and then we can start talking shelf pins. The engineer sent me just this picture of a design that she'd come up with to hold all of her essential oils. So with this picture, I got to work. This is a great weekend project and spruces up the place straight away. I was starting with a piece of Blackbutt that was 140mm wide and 45mm thick. My first job was to cut one straight edge, as this will be my reference surface moving forward. 45mm was too thick for this shelf, so I cut it down to 30mm. I did this on the table saw in a number of passes. Making sure that the same side was always running against the fence, I would make a pass top and bottom and then raise the blade and repeat the process. With the shelf cut to length, I could start to work on the shape. The shelf is going right near the workstation where the engineer works, and so the slim section at the front will comfortably hold the oils and also mean she won't bump the shelf each time she sits down. I drew out the shape on the board and got to cutting. To make the cut as straight as possible, I raised the blade on the table saw all the way up and cut part way along the timber. I could then finish the cut with the jigsaw. I refined the shape with the sander, and I could start drilling the holes for the shelf pins. The dowel I'm using for the pins is 19mm, and I started the holes on the drill press to ensure they were as straight as possible, and then finished them off with a hand drill. Drilling the holes now before cutting the back of the shelf off meant the holes were in the same spot and would mean that they would perfectly line up when I go to install. Taking into account where the essential oil bottles will be going, I worked out a good spot to cut the shelf at the back. The back section will be anchored to the wall and be the magic that floats the shelf. It was then time to start drilling recesses for the oils so they had a place to sit, and if the shelf gets knocked at all, the oils won't go flying. A Forstner bit is perfect for this task, as it leaves you with a nice flat bottom recess. Alright, I've got all of the holes drilled for my essential oils, and now we're up to the point where we can really start to get in on the finer details. I'm going to apply a round over to the edge, which is going to match this side because I haven't touched that since we started, and I'm also going to put a chamfer on the bottom because that'll just make it look just that little bit thinner from the front. But I've already cut the back off, so that's ready for the dowels. But let's go ahead and get those details done, and then we can get to sanding and finishing. The round over on the top side of the shelf gave a nice finished look, and applying a chamfer on the bottom meant that I had the strength in the shelf, but it doesn't look so thick from the front. With everything sanded, I could turn my attention to the magic of this project, the invisible shelf pins made from the 19mm dowel. I made the dowels as long as they could in each section to maximise the strength. I glued the dowel in and hammered them until they were flush with the back of the timber. Using thick dowel like 19mm means they generally do stay straight, but checking along the way is a good idea. I applied a couple of coats of clear to bring the timber to life, and this shelf was almost ready to be put in its home. I drilled partway through the back of the timber with a Forstner bit to recess the screw, and I used some beeswax to wax up the dowels to ensure a smooth install. It was then time to head inside and get to installing. Using a level, I pre-drilled where the wall mates would be going and hammered the wall mates in. Then, using 50mm screws, I could hold the shelf in place and secure the back of the shelf to the wall. The last thing to do was to push the front section of the shelf onto the dowels, and this project was complete. This was a super fun weekend project and a great DIY for beginners or anyone looking to spruce up a space. I hope you have liked this video, and if you have, help me out by hitting those subscribe and like buttons, and I'll see you on the next one.